It has been an extremely busy offseason for Brian and I, but we could not be more excited to be here tonight to talk everything that's coming up with the upcoming League One uh, season. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of League One on the Rocks. I am Rich. You can find me on Twitter at I'm Rich, but I'm not. You can use that same screen name over on Blue Sky to find me over there. Man opposite me with the mood lighting and the accessory in the back. Brian, how are you, man?
I'm doing good, Rich. I am extremely happy to be back doing the show and for the League One season to start again. It seems like the off season, when you're in the thick of it, it seems like it's never going to end. And then last thing you know, here it is. We're already starting this game tomorrow. So I mean, hey, I'm happy as can be now.
Yep. And Zach, we love you, buddy. Death taxes and League One on the Rocks starting late. Yes, we are adding more tools to our arsenal, though, and we are looking forward to displaying that on our socials this season.
Yeah,
Um, but
yeah. Full disclosure,
part of the
that's my fault.
season,
I didn't get it downloaded and set up in time. So my
nah,
bad.
all good. Man, we have so much to talk about. And I'm trying to contain my excitement as we get into all this talk here. But before we do, we got to continue the tradition. Brian, what are you drinking tonight?
Yeah, so if you guys saw on my Twitter account, I don't have Blue Sky yet. I'm working on getting it. That's another thing I'm going to do after the show. But um, my brother Colin for my birthday bought me some Irish whiskey. It's Irish honey from the Whistler. Um, it's Irish whiskey and honey liqueur. So 66 proof. So not anything too crazy, but I'll tell you what, it goes down smooth, and I enjoy it. So that's what I'm cracking into tonight.
Nice. I am going with Jameson,
Another Irish
old,
whiskey. I love it.
the old faithful. Yeah, earlier this week it was what was it, National or International Irish Whiskey Day,
Hmm.
and I definitely celebrated in appropriate fashion. I will say that. It was
You
a
have
good
to
night.
though. I mean,
You have to, yeah.
it's so close to it that you really have to. I mean, we got St. Patrick's Day right around the corner. Um, I've already got my green on for St. Patrick's Day right now for whatever reason, but
Hey,
here we are.
I got some. Yeah. Well, let me get back over to that screen. All right. So, with the coming of a new season, we have three teams that are no longer in the league, and we have five that are. And the reasons those clubs left are a variety of reasons. We don't need to get into any of that. Um, but we have Northern Colorado, Central Valley Fuego, and Lexington leaving the league. But entering the league, we have Westchester, we have Naples, we have Texoma, we have um, oh my gosh, I'm trying to think of all the names here.
Portland and
Portland and
oh,
Avialta. There
yes.
we go.
I wanted to say
I
Alta
wish I could
Vista
rattle them
for
off
whatever
so
reason,
quickly.
but yeah. Well, they're so new
Yeah,
still. I mean, we haven't even seen them play yet, so that will change
yeah,
tomorrow. We will see some of them play tomorrow, but
that is correct. Well, yeah, let's get that drinking.
so good.
Good stuff. So yes, and then at the same time as new teams entering the league, we also have some interesting setups with the rules that we may be experiencing. Some of the rules that we're going to be seeing this season are pretty typical. It's little to no changes. You know, you're still going to have your 30 player spots on the roster, seven international spots. Um, you can still have 25-day contracts. I saw that we have transfer windows and we have the dates actually set up for League One. And I saw the primary window is from January 31st to April 23rd. The secondary window is from July 24th to August 21st. Outside of those windows, clubs can add free agents or acquire players from other domestic clubs until the roster freeze. Now, the roster freeze begins on midnight on Monday, September 8th. So from September 9th until the end of the season, you dance with the one who brung you. And then other rules that are the same as last season, 18 players on the roster, unless you decide to use the additional two spots, which are provided if you have players signed to an academy contract, if they're 17 years or under. Um, so you can add those, but they have to be for home matches, not for away matches. And then for the discipline and the good behavior, that's all the same. If you go 3 appearances without getting a card, you get 1 yellow card taken away. 5 cards is a fine. 8 cards is a suspension and a fine. 11 gets you 2 game suspension and a fine, and then 14 cautions get you 3 game suspension and a fine. There is one thing that is new that we will surely see in championship, but we might see in League One. And it's called the Only the Captain Initiative. And the way it's presented on the website is this: following key decisions, only the designated captain should approach the referee in a respectful manner. If multiple players approach the referee after a key decision, the referee will blow the whistle, step back, and gesture, raising both arms above their head and crossing them at the wrist, that only the captain is permitted to communicate with the referee. Now, after that, any player who enters the captain only zone of a 4-meter radius will be issued a yellow card for dissent by action. And if your goalkeeper is the captain, a designated vice captain will be permitted to serve as the approaching player. Interesting concept.
Yeah, I mean it's something that we kind of you're supposed to see this anyway. Generally speaking, the only people that are really supposed to come up to the referee are the captains. That's kind of the whole reason behind the captain's armband. So, um, it, I understand why they're doing it, but at the same time, I feel like it is one of those rules that's gonna end up happening for the first few weeks, and then eventually it's just gonna get dropped. Because I don't think this is super enforceable. Um, and it's just I think it's something that's gonna get a little bit carried away. But we'll see how it goes. I like the idea of it, and worst case, you see a yellow card, then that goes back into our discussion on the yellow cards. So
Yeah.
don't accumulate them. That's really all there is to it.
The thing that concerns me about this, I like it from top to bottom. I like it. The only thing that I'm concerned about is where they say key decisions. What constitutes a key decision?
Yep.
Because there are sometimes, anytime a play is made, players are crowding the referee. So at that point,
Mm-hmm.
what are we deeming a key decision?
Yeah,
And that was never specified. So that could get messy.
yeah. I really think at this point you're. I mean, in a game like soccer, there's so many things that could be considered a key decision. I mean, is a foul that gives the ball away to the opposite team, wouldn't that be considered a one of those decisions, a key decision? Um, it'll be interesting to see where we actually end up going with it. Um, I think it's something that will be cool, and we'll kind of see. It's definitely going to need to be tweaked maybe as the season goes on, but I do like it, and we'll see how well these referees are able to keep a handle on these games without them getting out of hand. Because you also don't want to see your big stars of this league getting, you know, suspensions just because they came up to talk about a call with a referee.
Yeah, very good point. That could get pretty messy, especially if we were just talking about all those cautions. If they step within that 4-meter radius, man. And it also depends on how lenient the ref is, because sometimes you see them make that gesture like, okay, get back, get back, get back, but then they keep walking back and the players keep approaching.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see. That's going to be, I think it's going to be a source of contention, but at the same time, it's presented with the right motivation. Um, so we'll see. But it also seems as if it's going to be mostly seen in championship. It doesn't look as if it's going to be seen in League One as much, but I felt it was still interesting to at least cover just in case we do see it.
Yeah.
And as we look into the start of the season, an interesting topic here, because when you look at the history of clubs and how they perform both in their first 5 matches out the gate, as well as their first match, only looking at their first match over their entire competition in League One, you find some interesting storylines. Because if we're looking at the first 5, Greenville is the winningest team in League One.
Hmm.
So if you think they've played in 6 seasons, 5 matches, the first 5 out of those, that's 30 matches. They've won 16 of those matches with drawing only 6. So that's an average of 1.8 points per match. And if you go start going through some of the rest of this stuff, there's some other interesting ones that come in here. Omaha has the second most wins, but also but they also have the highest point average per match when you do the math out there.
Hmm.
Um, so there's some interesting tendencies here, but another one that I wanted to poke out or to single out here, Madison has never started their season at home. Every single season has started on the road.
Hmm. I suppose that probably has to do with the weather, I would assume.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, it makes a little bit of sense, I guess, but at the same time, I feel like why not let the flock end celebrate the start of a season at some point, you know?
Yeah. And I'm so glad you brought up weather because I thought that at the same time when I saw that Central Valley Fuego, when they were in the league, started all of their seasons on the road. And you would think Central Valley Fuego, like you would want to utilize a place
That's
in
where
a
you,
warmer climate.
yeah, that's where you'd want to be.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. Some other interesting notes. There have only been 2 teams who have won 3 of 3 first matches. Uh, let's see, their first match 3 consecutive seasons in a row. So Central Valley Fuego did it in each of their seasons in League One. The other team to do it was North Texas. North Texas played all 3 of their first matches at home. Fuego, as we just noted, played all 3 of theirs on the road. So, interesting one there.
Yeah.
Um, there will not be any chance for any team to try to break that 3 streak because the largest win streak that we have right now is One Knox with 2 straight wins. Um, of the current teams in League One, Omaha is the only team yet to be defeated in their first match of the season.
Hmm.
Actually, no, I need to take that back
Yep.
because One Knox is undefeated. They have 2 straight wins.
That's good company. That's good
Yeah,
company to be in. It's such a hard thing though when you come into the season, it is super difficult for any team really to come in and get a win, especially when you haven't seen teams yet. And especially when, like this season, we have 5 new teams coming into the league. You don't know a whole lot about them. You don't know how they're going to want to play. I mean, there's always things you can do. You can look up coach tendencies in the past and stuff like that, but it doesn't ever really give you the full idea of how they're going to play in this league with the players that they have. So it's difficult to do. It doesn't make or break a season, but there are some teams out there that ended the season on a high note and with a really great run of form that I'm sure they would love to continue to start this season because that just builds that momentum. And as we know in this league, momentum is huge for teams coming, especially coming in and out of the season. So um, I think we're definitely due to see some of these teams that maybe haven't gotten a win yet get one on the first match of their season.
Um, I think you're right. And that was one of the questions that I wanted to ask you because as far as expansion teams, let's see here. Nothing there. Nothing there. Um, as far as expansion teams, One Knox is the only expansion side. Oh, and Fuego. One Knox and Fuego are the only expansion sides to win their league opener.
Hmm.
So of the 5 teams that are joining, do you see one that could possibly match that feat?
Ooh. Um.
We have AV Alta plays at Tormenta. Naples hosts Chattanooga. That's one of the ones this week, so
Yep.
probably shouldn't give away that result just yet. And Texoma hosts One Knox, but that's in the 3rd week of the season.
Yep.
Westchester goes to Greenville. That's this week, so we can't give that one away either. And Portland goes to Naples on the 4th week of the season. So,
Oh, these
oof.
weird ass League One schedules, man. Already starting with the BS.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I can tell you that I definitely think one of them does. I think I mean, there's 5 of them, so saying one of them does is not like, I'm not pulling my call from last season saying Spokane was going to make it to the final in this one. I think this is a pretty much a no-brainer that at least one of these teams will win their first match, but maybe
Yeah.
not. I mean, as I do see one team coming out ahead in their first match, potentially 2, but I can't talk about those because they are all coming up. Maybe not this week, but they are all coming up eventually, and I don't want to give away the farm quite yet.
And the highest scoring expansion side in their league opener, Charlotte Independence, which yes, they're an expansion side and they came down from championship. I feel like if you are just starting your club and hitting the pitch for the first time as a competitive team,
Mm-hmm.
scoring 3 goals in your first match would be really tough.
Yeah, I would
But
say
as an
easily. Yeah.
established club, I feel like that's, there's a little more leeway in that regard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would.
Interesting. And
Yeah, go ahead.
there's one thing I was going to mention, but I don't want to mention it just yet because it pertains to one of the matches we're going to be discussing later on. So I'm going to throw it back to you.
Um, sorry, give me 1 second. I just had to make sure that that was gonna work. Okay, cool. I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? I just got like mentally messed with there for a second.
No, you're good. I was looking at a stat that I wanted to throw out there, but I'm going to wait to throw it out there until we get to the match that's happening in week 1.
Okay,
Because I think that'll be a good match preview there for us.
sweet.
Yeah.
All right. Well, do we want to just jump right into the first match week, or do you want to go through some of these? I
Sure.
did write down some general questions that we can either do before or after.
Yeah. Let's do general talk first
Okay.
because
So
those are good questions and we can do match previews.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't have sent you these and just made you learn on the fly, like just reverse the roles here a little bit. But so the season's just now starting. We know there's a lot of changes coming in. Um, so I just want to ask you, Rich, what are some of the things that you are most excited for, or what you're looking forward to the most this season? Whether that be the new teams coming in, the return of the Open Cup again this season, or the expanded and I would say better Jägermeister Cup.
Hmm. Wow, there's a lot, man.
You got to
Trying
pick
to narrow
one.
that down to a single item is
Yes,
going to be
one single
tough.
one.
One single one. I'm going to go with. Oh, that's really tough. The general idea of seeing how the expansion sides do this season. I'm always excited for the Open Cup. I'm excited for the Jaeger Cup. But seeing how, because we have 5 new teams in the league, like that is just blows my mind.
Yeah.
I think the most we've ever had join the league was 2, and that was when Northern Colorado and Central Valley Fuego joined.
Yep.
Um, so to have 5 join is man, that's didn't Charlotte and North Carolina join at the same time too?
Yes, I do believe that that's correct.
I could be wrong on that one.
That sounds like it's right.
Um, North Carolina joined in 21. Charlotte joined in 22. Oops, that's my bad.
I mean, it was close enough to that point.
Yeah. Oh, we had 3 join in 22. We had Northern Colorado, Charlotte, and Central Valley Fuego.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
And then 3 joined in 2020 with Fort Lauderdale, New England Revolution 2, and Union Omaha.
There's only one left out of those 3.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh boy.
So I think, even though we're sitting here looking at 3 one season, 3 another season, 2 another season, look, having 5 is just unprecedented. That kind of growth and that kind of excitement, because you're seeing the results that they've had in their preseason matches. You're seeing the signings that they have. You're seeing the coaching. You're seeing the people that are being um, named the general manager, the business operations, sports, like the corporate sponsorships and all that kind of stuff. There are so many exciting things that are happening, and it's going to be really really nice to see what the expansion sides bring to the league.
Yeah, I agree. For me, it's really I'm really excited to see the Jägermeister Cup expansion this season. I think they've taken things that they built on last season and have created something that, God forbid, the Open Cup goes away at some point. Um, I feel like the USL has kind of cultivated something that can really bring in the people that would eventually miss the Open Cup were it to go away, which would be the worst thing for U.S. soccer outside of just completely killing the lower division games. Um, so I'm just really excited to see how these League One teams stack up against these championship teams, and I think this season you're really going to see that the split between these League One teams and these championship teams, whether the middle to the lower pack championship teams and the top echelon of League One, are not separated by very much. So I'm really excited to see that, and I would just really love the amount of smack talk that's going to come out of these League One teams when they're beating championship teams, and all of the other League One teams are cheering for their League One brethren to get in. Because we saw
Okay,
that with
so you
Open Cup over the past few years, so we know the League One community is going to stick together.
oh yeah, when it's Open Cup, USL against the world. um but until then it's USL league, it's League One against the world. And then once all the League One teams are out, then it's USL versus the world.
Oh no, there'll be a League One team in the title.
Oh, okay.
There'll be that
All right, you said it. You
we
said
can
it.
shelve that for another day. But I'm just saying, you, I am, yeah, I would put money on at least one League One team in the final.
Ooh, okay. All right. So that's Open Cup, and we can save that for another day.
Yeah.
Let's go to Jaeger Cup because we have a new format now. We have multiple groups consisting of championship and League One teams. Do you think any League One teams are going to get out of the group stage? And if so, which ones?
Oh man. Well, you got to give me a second to look up the groups again.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now too. There are some groups that have 7. There are some groups that have 6. Um,
All right.
these groupings are tough too.
Oh, so Wikipedia has it as the 2025 USL Cup, and it's the USL Jägermeister Cup for sponsorship reasons. Well, yeah, duh.
There you go. Yeah.
Where are my groupings? Okay.
Because if you think about it, each group, it's the top team that gets out.
Yes. So Group 1.
So you'd have to have a League One team that goes on one hell of a run of form against some pretty intense competition.
Do I say this without sounding too like homerish? Am I gonna get like accused show 1 30 minutes into it? Well, sorry, Zach. We did start late, so 20 minutes into it that I'm being a homer. I mean, I think there's a possibility of a couple of them. Just looking at the groupings, there's a lot of really tough groups. That Group 5 with Charlotte, Lexington, Loudoun, Louisville City, North Carolina FC, and the Kickers. Like that is a brutal group.
Yeah, that is.
But yeah, I'm sure I'd be comfortable saying that 2 teams make it out. One team from Group 3. I think Forward Madison's going to have a great year this year. I can see Forward Madison coming out of Group 3. I mean, with the likes of Birmingham Legion, the Chattanooga Red Wolves, Indy 11, One Knox, and FC Tulsa. If Madison has the season I am predicting them to have this year, I think they can get out of that group, and I think they get out of that group not super comfortably, but more comfortably than my second pick. And this is 100% the harder of these 2 groups to get out of. But yeah, Group 2, Union Omaha, man. Until they prove me wrong, I have to keep picking Union Omaha to win things. But the Group 2, the tough one, you got Colorado Springs, Switchbacks, El Paso Locomotive. We've seen Omaha beat El Paso multiple times, so not worried about that. But New Mexico United, Phoenix Rising, San Antonio FC, and Texoma round out that group. So that is my less confident pick of the 2. But yeah, I do see 2 League One teams making it to the knockout stages in this.
I don't think that's a terrible take. Group 3, I think Forward Madison can get out of that.
They can. I think Forward Madison this season is going to turn quite a few heads.
I think Group 3 is going to come down to Forward Madison and let's say FC Tulsa. I think it'll come down to those 2.
It's not a bad pick.
Group 2, that's tough because even New Mexico, like that's a tough team.
They're all tough teams. They're Group 2 is like a group of death group.
If league headquarters was going to rig the schedule in any way, and we would have evidence and even applaud it at this point, it would be Union Omaha playing Colorado Springs, having the championship winner versus the League One winner. Yeah. That would have been an obvious pick in the schedule. I would have loved to see that happen. And it's a driving distance away too.
Yeah, and we don't see them play at all in this in any of the matches.
Yeah.
So
our Unified Series teams play.
And they play well. These 2 unified teams Again, yeah, let's plug that again too.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that to put on the list just because there's so much to talk about. But yeah, man, the thing I'm most excited about, honestly, is the return of the Unified Series. Like I'm so happy to see these every single time. I hope it gets marketed just a little bit better in every single city. I feel like it does get marketed, but I think it should be pushed a little bit further to the forefront in most cases. But they are so much fun. If anybody
Yeah.
hasn't been, I mean, if you listen to us, you probably have been because we talk it to death. But that's because it's so much fun to watch. So, um, yeah, actually, the Unified Series that tops the list for me. I can't wait to see the Unified Series matches again.
Yeah, that's going to be so much fun. Um, and yeah, there's some fun things that are going to be happening surrounding the Unified Series, and it's just so much fun. Um, being very involved with it last season, that was man, that was a true joy for the season. I did not mind uh doing that on my day off, going and
No,
doing training and all that kind of stuff. That was yeah,
so
that
much
brought
fun.
joy.
hmm And that's the biggest thing about it, man. It brings people together. You get to have a fun time. Um, it's one of those where you hope your team's unified team wins, but you're just happy to watch the match. So
Yeah. Pure celebration. Whoever wins wins, but it's a pure celebration the entire time. So much fun. If
mhm,
you ever get the chance to go to a USL match, because championship has unified series now too,
mhm.
and there's a unified series after the match, you have to go. You have to go. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about Open Cup, we
Yep.
talked about Jaeger Cup, getting out of the group and all that kind of stuff. We're definitely going to be talking more about the Jaeger Cup because that's going to be a fun one to talk about this season. All right, so you got some other questions on the outline.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna skip the next one and go to so when we're comparing this season to seasons past, what do you think of the talent level of League One as a whole?
Ooh, man, I should have thought about that one more. You got me on this one.
We lost a lot of players up to championship and other places, but we
Mhm.
also brought in a lot of players from other places and coming down from championship.
Yeah, I think there's a greater commitment. We're seeing a lot, we're seeing more players. We are seeing more veterans um, and taking that established role in League One. But at the same time, there's also a greater commitment to academy players, to younger talent who may not fit the academy contract and are going to be a pro athlete, are still going to be a pro athlete in League One. There's a healthy balance there, and I like that because you see that mentorship happening, and the young players are stepping up. We saw it with Richmond last season. The young players came in and they were mentored along the way by some of the veteran players that were on that squad. I'm thinking Nil Vinyals, Adrian Billhart. I'm thinking Pablo Hara, um, and even like that defensive line. I mean, Richmond has so much youth in that club, yet they were performing at such a high level. They were able to get themselves into the playoffs with all of that youth in their squad. So um, it's good to see that kind of commitment. But on the other side, being able to put together a veteran rich squad like Forward Madison did, um, and find the chemistry because we've been talking about Forward Madison looking for that locker room chemistry for so long that last year it finally happened. And we saw what Forward Madison can be with a group full of veterans.
hmm
So you're seeing commitment on both sides, and I love that.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that the talent level is only going up. I think when we get to the off season again, and trust me, I'm not hoping we get there quicker than we need to, but when we get to the off season again, I think we really need to have a discussion about when we think back to teams past, like champions past, and then we do the whole, okay, what team would win the 2019 North Texas team or the 2021 Union Omaha team? Like it, when we go in and we think about that, I think now we're starting to hit a point talent wise in this league where teams now are going to be top to bottom more talented than teams past. I think the league has grown enough to that point where there is going to be a divide between years past and more current years. That's not taking anything away from the teams of the past, but I think now, especially with sports over the past like 10, 15, 20 years becoming more specialized and more centralized, like you play one sport year round now. You don't have kids that play three or four different sports, so you get your talents really brought together and brought up at a young age. So I think we're going to start to see some of the fruits of that labor now too. And with the USL's commitment um, to having younger players come in as well, and to build out these academy rosters and to build out all these younger development leagues and everything, I think it's really going to show starting here soon. And I think this season is a big catalyst for that. I think there's going to be a ton of talent coming in this year that you may or may not have heard of. There are some people coming back. There are some people that are just moving down or up. So I think there's definitely going to be a larger talent gap this season between the best teams and the not as good teams.
Yeah, the thing that really drives me when I'm looking at the roster makeup of this kind of stuff, if you'd have told me back in 2019, 2020 that we'd have international players who play for their national team on a League One squad, I'd have thought you were crazy.
Yeah.
But I mean, even just this week, Portland added that Japanese player, Masashi Wada. So it's like you're seeing international players who play for their national team playing in our League One.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
it's
players in their
crazy. It's
starting
so cool.
rotations too. We're not
Mhm.
even talking guys coming off the bench. We're talking guys that are starting against the best in the world.
Yeah, yeah. And we know what kind of quality players come out of Japan.
Yeah.
I mean, Japan has such a great development system,
Mm-hmm.
both men and women. It's just a great system.
Yep. Um, I don't necessarily like this one either because we haven't had a big enough sample size yet. I do I do want to ask you these two questions. I'm gonna kind of put them into one, and you can take whichever one you want, and I can take the other one. But um, what team do you think is going to make the biggest jump this season in performance, and what team do you think is going to take the biggest step back this season?
Okay, so with that question, we are automatically excluding expansion sides.
Yes.
Okay. So, oh, okay. I think we'll see a slight dip from Greenville only because Liam McKinnon. If you lose a potent goal scorer like Liam McKinnon, you're going to see a little bit of a drop off.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's going to be anything dramatic, but that one jumps out to me. Um, I think One Knox is still going to be very defensive in their shape and execution,
Mm-hmm.
still low scoring, but they're going to take their opponents to 90 minutes. You're going to have to go through an intense dogfight to get points against One Knox.
Yep.
But as far as a drop off, my vote would go to Charlotte. We haven't seen as much roster action from them. I'm still waiting for that wow moment from their roster. We've seen them with the veteran rich core being very stable throughout the entire season.
Hmm.
But entering the 25 season, I'm thinking, what are we doing? Like, are they happy with just being a middle contender playoff team, or do they want to climb? I mean, once you get into the playoffs, it's pure chaos from there, and anyone has a chance at winning the title. Correct, yes. But I'd like to see them commit more to, I don't know, um, a roster that turns heads. We've been seeing so much come out of the expansion sides with their signings. We've seen Spokane loading up with their roster, Ford Madison stocking up, Union Omaha stocking up. There are teams that are signing these exciting players, but we haven't seen that same kind of excitement from Charlotte. So that
Yeah,
that would be my vote.
yeah. I mean, if I had to come in and answer this question, I mean, the my pick for who's going to take the biggest jump, it's not because of how they ended the season. It's more of how they got into the playoffs and their their form leading up to it. I think Spokane is going to take a huge jump this season. I think. I mean, I don't want to spoil what we have later on a little bit, but yeah, I have Spokane being one of my top four teams towards the end of the season. Um, I think that's easy to say with all the roster additions they brought in, but we also saw the same thing happen with Lexington last year, and they finished in ninth place. So, um, you know, signing guys doesn't always give you that big jump like you're looking for, but um, I mean, I also have a lot of faith in Wiedemann out there. I think he can put together a squad that can really play a particular brand of soccer that can really frustrate a lot of teams. And I think you saw that in the playoffs last year. I think it was to get Spokane from seventh place to the League One final, was just a masterclass of coaching. So I expect more of the same out of him this year. So I think he will be able to do a little bit better with his squad than Lexington was able to last year. Um, and as far as the biggest drop off, I have to agree with you with Charlotte, and that it just doesn't seem like there's. I don't want to say there's a not an emphasis on getting guys signed and brought in and stuff like that, but there's just they've brought guys in, but there's not really been that splash big like, oh wow, they're serious kind of stuff. They're bringing in guys that are solid, um, and I feel like with the particular brand that they play, being as technical as they are and wanting to work the ball wide and be able to move around the pitch like they do, it takes a very specific kind of player, and I think you do need some big name players to do that. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think Charlotte is the team that's going to make the drop off on this one.
All right, so let me be devil's advocate for you when it comes to Spokane.
Mm-hmm.
I do agree with you when it comes to biggest jump. I wholeheartedly agree with you, but let me throw some stuff at you. They were winless in their last 7 matches of the regular season.
Yep.
They were shut out in 6 of those 7 matches.
Mm-hmm.
They lost 5 of those matches.
Yep.
When it came to the playoffs, they didn't score a single goal in regulation time.
Nope.
They relied on, actually, they did score 3 goals against Northern Colorado. Sorry, I apologize for that. They did score 3 goals there. But in their semifinal match, they didn't score against Ford Madison. They had to rely on PKs to get them into the final,
Mm-hmm.
and then got shut out in the final.
Yep.
So just playing devil's advocate here,
Mm-hmm.
when you look at the way that their season ended,
Yep.
can you justify the hype with their performance at the tail end of the 24 season?
I I can say that I think what happened with them last season, they towards the end of that season they had a few injuries. They also just weren't. They didn't seem like a cohesive kind of unit, almost like a group of guys that had almost given up on the season. Um, and I think when they actually made it into the playoffs, I think that kind of sparked something in this team. And you saw them play. I mean, you saw them play and beat the team that I remember sitting here listening to other shows that cover League One. Um, a lot of those people were picking Northern Colorado to go and win the whole thing, like the best looking team out there, and they came in. They came into Northern Colorado and beat them, and it really wasn't even that close. They didn't. Neither team played a great game, and that was not. If you're looking for a real technical matchup, that was not the match to watch between those two teams. Neither of them played a great game, but good teams find a way to win even when they are not playing well. And I think you saw that in their match against Madison as well. I mean, taking it to PKs, that was another one where it just seemed like both teams were not really firing on all cylinders, but they found a way to make that one. And then in the final, I mean, I don't think any team that came up was going to beat Union Omaha on that day. All of the bounces fell for Union Omaha. You know, they played their complete game on their field, and I think that was one of the biggest reasons why Omaha came away with that win last year was because they were able to frustrate Spokane with the smaller pitch, with the style of soccer that they play on that smaller pitch. And I think Union Omaha really has an advantage when they are at home. So um, now I think if that match is played in Spokane, I still think Union Omaha wins because I think they're a better squad top to bottom last year. Um, but I think we go into it this season with Spokane already knowing what they have to do to take that next step. They saw, okay, and I think to your point, Rich, in the playoffs, the only team they beat in regulation was Northern Colorado. They had to go to penalties against Madison, and then they lost 3-0 to Union Omaha, got blanked. So I think they saw we can do these things. We just need the extra firepower. And they knew our defense is okay. Our defense is fine. Our midfield is good. We can build off of this. And I think that's what they did this offseason.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm gonna step down from the devil's advocate soapbox there. The the thing that makes Spokane so dangerous this year is their depth.
Mm-hmm.
And Coach Wiedemann has done a great job of assembling a roster that looks very dangerous this season. And when you have the freedom in a training session to set up an 11v11 um, scrimmage,
Yeah.
and you have the depth of players facing each other, they're going to get quality competition every day of the week leading up to the match that they're facing. So that's the thing that I really like about Spokane. I think Coach Wiedemann is doing a great job out there. I think they're doing the right moves of bringing players in, and they're going to be a dangerous team this season.
Yeah, I think so.
And this probably pertains to later on in the show when we start talking about our, rankings first to 12th. If you think about teams who finish second and how they do the next year, Greenville finished second in 2019, one in 2020. Union Omaha finished second in 20. Yeah, I know. Union Omaha finished second in 2020, finished first in 21.
Yeah.
I mean, you start to see the runner up start to have a little bit of a surge the next season. 22 Tormenta, they made the playoffs, but they weren't the runner up the prior year. 23 was North Carolina. So, but
There is a
do you
precedent.
think that this? Yeah, there is a precedent. There's obviously an edge and an attitude to Spokane signing. It's too early to ask that question, so I can't ask that one. Dang it. We'll get there though.
Let's just get the season. Let's go.
I know. All right, so let me go with one of your questions here.
I was gonna say, I think
Moving.
you are the ones that have to ask these two questions. I don't know that you can even answer these two. So
Ooh, okay. Yeah, okay. Yes, this sets you up perfectly. I love this. Okay. All right. I'm gonna ask the question, just put my mic on mute and sit back for a few minutes.
okay.
Moving forward, what do you most want to see from the League One office to set up this league to succeed?
Um, I think I don't know, man. It's really difficult, like because I sit and I look at what we have and kind of what has been built around League One, and I think there's a lot of things with League One that have been built from, um, kind of from the supporter point of view, and from like us and all of the other great shows, like the content creator part of it. And I think the league really needs to embrace some of that moving forward. I think there's a lot of people, there's a lot of people in this League One sphere that are really, really smart people. Um, there is a ton of people who dedicate a ton of time to researching this league, researching the players, researching tendencies. I mean, I can only imagine what some of these people's desktops look like if they don't have it completely organized with folders and specific dates, times, and everything. Like it would be an explosion of stuff all over their screen. And I think the league needs to kind of tap into that. And I know it's completely one of those things that is really difficult for them to do because obviously they'd have to balance payrolls, they'd have to balance so many of like oversights of the people that they would talk to and stuff like that. I think you're starting to see some of it now. Um, and I know like the league website has collaborated with a couple people from, other shows and stuff like that on their actual league website now. So that's really awesome to see. But I just think some more of that, and even if it was to a point where you get personalities on like a League One show or something like that. You know, I like kind of like what we do now, but they have more access to whether it be players, coaches, video, audio, stuff like that. And I really think that in order to grow the league, you have to put more eyes on it. And the best way to put more eyes on it is you have to get it on, even if it's starting a YouTube channel or something like that. You need to get eyes on more on the league so it's in the forefront of your mind. Where I think a lot of more casual fans for the league think about it when their team has a match, but they don't necessarily know. So let's say you're a Forward Madison fan, you don't necessarily know when Chattanooga Red Wolves are going to play a match unless you're playing them that week. And so that's one of the things I think a more regular schedule. I think having some matches Wednesdays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and I understand that there's probably a lot more that goes into it with teams like Union Omaha that share a stadium, or Greenville that shares a stadium, you know, things like that. I know that it doesn't make it the easiest thing in the world, but I think when it gets to a certain point, you're going to have to not necessarily make it more like MLS in the fact of you're making it more of a business rather than the product that's on the field. I think they need to take some of the stuff from MLS, Premier League, La Liga, stuff like that, and put this in front of more people's eyes. And the more often you can do that, the more fans you're going to be able to attract to the actual league itself, and you'll have more league fans as opposed to fans of a certain team who just happen to tune in to the match before or after the match that they wanted to watch. I think those two are the biggest things. But really, other than that, I can't complain too much about what the league does because the league, over the past few years especially, has really upped has really upped their game in getting this out there. And with with the USL announcing the Division One, going for Division One status, that's only going to bring more eyes to the USL as a whole. Because if you get a team up in Division One and then they start seeing those names, they might click over to watch some championship match. And if they watch some championship matches, maybe they really like a certain guy and he drops down to League One. They're going to start watching League One matches. So it's like the waterfall effect of, um, I guess what I'm trying to say is a big linchpin to this is this Division One plan that they have. If they can get that rolling and use the success and drive of fans coming to watch the matches from that, they can trickle it down to Championship, League One, League Two, W League, Super League. I mean, the sky is really the limit if they do this right.
I wholeheartedly agree.
It was
I
really
think the
long-winded
Division One
answer.
status. What's that?
I said that was a really long-winded answer for that question, but
No, I loved it though. You raised some really good points in there. I think the Division One status was a complete surprise to me.
yeah.
But if they do it right, as you just said, could really yield some great benefits for the league. And if they turn around, as you also mentioned, and embrace the supporters and the people who are so completely devoted to the league, there's some truly special moments that could happen. I mean, there are so many League One podcasts, and we've recommended them time and time again on our show.
Yeah, and we'll
Um,
continue to do that as as they come up. But yeah, there's oh man, there's got to be one for almost every single team at this point now too. Plus,
yeah,
what, 3 or 4 league ones now?
mhm,
I mean it's insane.
yeah, and just I mean, looking at our live chat here, Ranting Blue Penguin just joined the show, and he just started a new initiative, Omaha Club Flush. And so, if you're looking for Omaha specific coverage of the teams that are in Omaha, whether it be the pro side, the um, semi-pro, the indoor. I mean, there he's doing so much work over there, and he's bringing so many people under his umbrella to provide you that coverage. And he's doing this in his free time. Um, so definitely go, check out Omaha Club Flush.
Mhm.
There are so many people that are passionate about League One, that are passionate about their teams. Um, that it would be great to see more collaboration between the league and those people, those shows, and all that kind of stuff. And I think it's only gonna get better with more attention that's brought to USL by virtue of the league, the Division One status.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean it's a really big linchpin. I think that granted they still have to get Division 1 status for any of this to make sense, and we all know how the MLS and US soccer are best buddies. So we'll have to see how that goes out. I mean, they're going to have to really do something miraculous to, I think, get Division 1 status, but if and when they do, I mean, I really look for the USL to blow up big.
Yeah. Yep. Soccer Wars is on and it's hot and it's going to be so much fun to watch and it's going to be filled with so much drama. So I'm excited for all of that. All of that.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm going to be watching the USL anyway. Um,
Yeah.
Partially because I don't want to pay A for Apple TV, and B, the couple of Sporting Kansas City matches I've watched, I'm not going to be a happy camper on that side of my fandom this season at
Yeah.
all.
Yep. All right. We got less than half an hour left in the show. So we should do some match previews. It's week one.
It's
We
week
have
one.
3 matches this weekend and we have one starting this Friday, tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And then we have 2 more on Saturday, an early kickoff and then a later kickoff. So there is no reason why anybody should miss out on any of these kickoffs. They're all going to be on ESPN Plus. There's plenty of time between the matches for you to tune into every single one.
Yep.
So let's tackle the first one that's up. Tormenta hosting Richmond.
Yeah. This is a big one, man. Tormenta and Richmond. So if we're let's start with the home team Tormenta first. Looking back on last season, they finished in 10th place with 20 points. Granted, the playoff line last year was 24 points for the last team in. So they only missed the playoff by 4 points. They finished with a record of 4 wins, 8 draws, and 10 losses with a -9 goal differential. And the big problem with Tormenta last season was they went winless in their last 9 weeks of the season. 9 weeks before the last part of the season, they were virtually a playoff lock with how they were playing. They weren't going to be a high playoff team. They would probably have been 7 or 8, but they were on track to make the playoffs by a good margin. Then they do not win for the last 9 weeks, and that blows the door wide open for the team that they are playing to sneak up into the playoff line. So, I mean, thinking back on Tormenta last season, they were a competitive team that scored goals, but there were only 2 teams in the league that allowed more goals last season than Tormenta. And those 2 teams both finished below Tormenta in the standings at the end of the season. Now that could have prompted what comes next here, but Tormenta is this the second season in a row that they have had the highest player turnover margin in the off season? I mean, they have turned over their team twice in 2 seasons. They do bring back a few people. They do sign one really, really big signing, in my personal opinion. But it looked like Tormenta really saw something last season that wasn't working, and they said, okay, we're going to burn it down. We're going to come back in, and we're going to refocus next season, which, like I said, they did the season before, and they got to the last 9 weeks of the season before, as Tim says, the bolt came off the wheels. So, I mean, just looking at their team, huge amount of turnover, but I think signing Austin Pack is somehow the biggest signing. I think honestly of this offseason for me, this is the biggest one. Getting Austin Pack on your team, one of the best goalkeepers in this league, is huge. I've been a huge fan. I talked about him all the time last season. How Tormenta managed to do that, I will never know, but they did, and they've got a solid one between the goals.
You had some incredible stats there. So I can't even compare to any of the stats that you have there. But when I'm looking at the rosters here, Richmond has a healthy mix of veterans with youth. And even some of those youth are veterans now at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Tormenta is bringing in a lot of players, high caliber players.
Yep.
The one thing that worries me the most about Tormenta is depth.
Yeah.
When you look at their starters, all very high quality, high caliber players.
Yep.
But when you get to the 60th, 70th minute and you're looking for subs, who are you going to bring on? Who's going to match the intensity, the quality of the players that you're taking off? And that's what worries me about Tormenta.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to Richmond, yes, they have the youth. Yes, they have the veterans, but they have the chemistry. They don't have to worry about that this season, whereas Tormenta, they're still establishing that chemistry. And if you look at the past 5 seasons, 5 of the last 6 seasons, Tormenta has started their season at home.
Yep.
And the last 3 times they've started at home, they lost. Whereas Richmond, they've started 4 of their 6 seasons on the road, and they are completely even across the board in the last 3. They won 1, they've drawn 1, they've lost 1. This is gonna be a really interesting match because we get to see this is our first look at the Tormenta squad that has gained so much hype in the offseason
Mm-hmm.
because of the caliber of players that are coming in.
Yep.
This is also the first time we get to look at Richmond because of the chemistry that has already been established by virtue of last season. And we get to see more of that in the second season and see how they grow with the young players that they have. This is a really interesting one to watch,
Yeah.
and I like it.
Yeah. And just kind of building off of what you were talking about with Tormenta's depth, I think Richmond took a big step last season in playing a lot of younger players. And I think they emphasized that towards the end of the season and the season before, getting a lot of young guys in to get time, meaningful minutes at the end of the season. And I really think that's something that they're going to lean on this season. Just talking about Richmond last year, they finished in eighth place, which was a playoff bid. Um, 6 wins, 6 draws, 10 losses, -9 goal differential last year. Um, they were 3-3-3 in their last 9 weeks of the season, so completely even for their last 9 weeks. Um, they did kind of sneak into the playoffs last season, um, playing a lot of teams in the bottom half of the table to close out that season. So they really did what they needed to do to close out the season and get that playoff bid. And if anybody remembers last season, they came into the playoffs and they gave Union Omaha quite a scare in that first one. It took Union Omaha a long time to get that single goal to win that. So, and it took the crossbar stopping the shot twice for Union Omaha to get that victory. So, um, look for Richmond, I think, this year to do a little bit better than they did last season. Um, Especially, they bring back Emi Terzaghi again. I mean, what can you really say, Rich? I won't harp on that one too much for you and know how your feelings are. Um, Great player though, obviously, and trying for another MVP and bringing Pablo Hara too. I mean, just his amount of for the amount of seasons he's been in the league and how good of a keeper he is, whether or not he takes a player role the entire season or he ends up being a player coach and kind of mentors the younger guys up too. I mean, those are two big players for this Richmond Kickers team that I think are going to end up making a pretty big difference this season. As long as Emmy stays healthy this season, I think he's always going to be somebody that you have to look out for.
Yeah, and if you take a look at the other names that are on that squad that we saw last year with Dakota Barnathan, Chandler O'Dwyer, Simon Fitch,
Yep.
there's a strong veteran core there.
Yep.
Players who have been there for multiple years, who have the same passion that the fans do that fill City Stadium every single week. And I love that about them.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing to consider here, when Tormenta went to City Stadium, they won in regulation. Um, that was the early in the season last year. But when you look at the Jaeger Cup and the regular season match that happened late last season, Richmond rose to the occasion and they made it happen. You talked about how they were 3-3-3 in those last 9 weeks.
Yep.
They did what they had to get into the playoffs. They felt the pressure and they rose to the occasion. That was it.
Yeah. 12
And you
points in
have to
nine
respect that.
matches.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So if we're picking a result here, because we are gonna keep track of our results, our picks, and everything. We're gonna put it on socials. We're gonna keep a scoreboard and all that kind of stuff. We have it all planned out. Brian, who you picking?
uh, we're not picking draws. Um,
Nope.
this one, I really think this one is going to come. Gosh, it's so early in the season that oh, everybody's going to be fresh. So in this one, I don't think you're going to have to worry too much about depth in this one. I think your starting 11 chances are going to go a long time in this match. I won't say 90, not everybody's going to go 90 obviously, but I do think you see the majority of these starting 11s go deep into the second half. That being said, I really have a hard time picking against Richmond just because of the amount of veterans they have on their roster. I mean, it is really hard to pick against them. Plus, you have, I mean, we Rich, you just named off all the guys that are going to be impact players this season for Richmond, and it's really hard for me to trust Tormenta, even with Austin Pack between the sticks. I really have a hard time taking Tormenta against Richmond in this one until I can see more of this revitalized Tormenta team. Because we know what we're going to get from Richmond, but we don't know what we're going to get from Tormenta yet.
That's a good point. What are you saying for a scoreline?
I don't think it's going to be if I had to give a score line for this, I'm going to say 1-0. I don't see a whole lot of scoring in this one.
Okay. I'm going to go the other way. Um, because I think with the top line, the 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 people that Tormenta has been signing, there's some really good talent over there. And since it's so early in the league, we don't have to worry about injuries. We do have to worry about chemistry,
Yep.
but it's the first time out. There's going to be nerves involved and all that kind of stuff. I still think that there's enough talent on the Tormenta side to overcome this. In this match, I'm going to say Tormenta 2-1.
2-1. I like it.
Yeah. And you said that your biggest signing in the offseason was Austin Pack going to Tormenta.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I think my biggest signing was Nil Vigneault's going from Richmond to Spokane.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Missing Nil Vigneault's is going to be huge.
Yeah.
And for Spokane, having Nil Vigneault's on your roster is going to be huge.
Yeah, I agree. Well, there's that one. So we switch gears here to Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I think we're still going to go with Eastern Standard Time just because that's what they usually do, even though now both of us are in Central Standard Time, but we'll take it. 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you've got Greenville taking on Westchester SC. So going and looking at Greenville, obviously brand new expansion squad they're playing against. So I don't have anything from last season to tell you about those guys. So we will get to them and give you the players a note after this. But you've got Greenville Triumph, perennial top of the table kind of squad here. Last year they finished 4th place with 11 wins, 7 draws, 4 losses, and a plus 11 goal differential. That being said about Greenville, though, they were very up and down last season. They had a lot of trouble going out and stringing more than 2 wins together in a row. They ended up winning 2 games in a row 3 times last season, but each time that they did win 2 games in a row, they followed it up with a loss all 3 times, broken up to the beginning, middle, and end of the season. So the sample size there, I mean, it encompasses an entire season. They have trouble stringing long runs of wins together. Um, but I mean, players of note coming for Greenville, a lot of the usual suspects: Gunther Rankenberg, Tyler Pollock, Brandon Fricky, Evan Lee, Siobhan Marsh is a big one now as well. Greenville is they're Greenville, man. They're gonna come in, they're gonna play their style, and they're gonna do what they do. Um, Switching the table, Westchester SC, new expansion side, made a lot of splash signings though. This is definitely a team to watch out for. Some of the players of note that they signed: Stephen Payne, Noah Powder, uh, Obregon Jr., and Jonathan Blanos. So big names. You guys, we have talked about every single one of these players over the past few seasons, week in and week out. Um, Westchester's not messing around when they came and they dropped this squad, and I think that can be said of every single one of these expansion sides. They came in, they saw players they liked, and they grabbed them. It didn't matter where it came from. That's just what they did, and that's just some of the development that this league went through, and that just is kind of shows you how much talent there is in this league, that you can come in and steal players from all of these other teams, and yet every single team we're going to talk about tonight and for the next few weeks until we are 100% familiar with the rosters, they're guys that you've heard of from whether it be this league, championship, other leagues around the world. Um, yeah, I mean it's going to be crazy, and I will say I don't envy anybody coming into the league for the first season, coming in and having to play uh, a Greenville Triumph, you know, a team that is a top 4 team year in and year out. So
I think that was a really good analysis. Now, what I am looking forward to most here is seeing how Westchester adjusts to the regular season because, as you mentioned, they've been getting a lot of attention for the player signings.
yep.
But also, we've been seeing some mentions of the quality of play that they've been having during their preseason matches. There's been a lot of hype behind this team when it comes to the rankings across, other outlets. Westchester is definitely one of those expansion sides that's coming into the league with a lot of momentum and a lot of intrigue. Um, but when I wanted to point to you earlier, that I didn't, that I wanted to hold off on, was in regards to Greenville, because Greenville has had the opportunity to play an expansion side in 3 of its 6 seasons on the first day of the season. In 2020, they played at Fort Lauderdale and won 2-0. In 2022, they hosted Central Valley Fuego, lost 2-0. And then in 2024, they hosted Spokane and won 3-1. Greenville is a team that has played the expansion side, I think, more than any other team. Just glancing through here, I think they've played the expansion side first more than any other team. But at the same time, Greenville, despite the fact they lost Liam McKinnon, they still have plenty of players
Oh yeah.
on that roster who are going to be high quality players heading into the 25 season. But seeing the this is the interesting part for me, seeing the intrigue and the hype behind Westchester SC up against the I don't know I don't want to call it league gargantuan, but at the same time, like they're the winningest team across their first 5 in all of their seasons. They've, I mean, they're, I don't know, Greenville's just the winningest team ever, I think, if I remember correctly too. So this is gonna be an interesting matchup.
Mhm.
And for more reasons than what we can talk about, but I think Greenville hosting Westchester. Rick Wright has a good system in place. We saw that last season.
Yep.
He didn't do anything crazy from what John Harkes did. So the players who came back had a very familiar system that they were working with. Westchester, they've had a lot of momentum going for them in the preseason. Heading into the regular season now, they haven't faced another League One opponent just yet. Man, this one's a tough one. Do you want to go first, or are you going to make me go first?
No, I'll go first. So looking at this, I think we know the quality and the quantity that we're going to get out of Greenville. Um, we don't know what we're going to get out of Westchester, but to me, looking at these rosters, I think personally, I think the firepower for Westchester is just it's going to be too much for even Greenville's defense to be able to deal with. And Greenville being a defensive team, that should throw some alarm bells for some of these other teams in this league, because if Greenville's defense can't hold on to them very well, it's going to be hard for a whole lot of teams to do it, just because Greenville is always putting on a masterclass of defense. Um, but yeah, I like Westchester in this one. I think they come in and I think they get the shock of the weekend, and I think Westchester ends up beating Greenville 2-1.
2-1. All right. For everything that you just said, I'll agree with it. And I will say that it's going to be close. I'll say Westchester 1-0. Yeah, I'll say Westchester 1-0.
It's hard to argue. I think Greenville's lost some of their firepower up front. Granted, their defense is still stout. There's a lot of players in that defensive side and the midfield that are known quantities. But yeah, there's a lot of playmakers on this Westchester SC side. That's for sure.
Yeah. And now we head into the Saturday evening match, which is FC Naples hosting Chattanooga Red Wolves. Kickoff is at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Brian, take it away.
Yeah. So, uh, FC Naples, you've got no track record on them last season. They weren't in the league. They're an expansion side. So, um, just some of the players of note that they've signed, you're gonna recognize these names as well: Breck Evans, Jake Dangler, Jaden Onan, and Christopher Heckenberg. Um, I mean, some of these signings that these guys are making, really taking some of these big names and known quantities in the league. I think they saw something, and the fact that they're kind of going for it as well. Um, I like the lineup that they're going to come out with, and all the players that they've signed. So this is going to be a test for Chattanooga, especially with Chattanooga finishing last season in 11th place in the league, 5 wins, 14 draws, 3 losses, and a negative 20 goal differential. Um, this is another kind of shocking stat for a team in the league. Chattanooga Red Wolves FC went winless from week 13 until week 22, the final week of the season. Their last win, funnily enough, was at Union Omaha in week 12. So they did beat the team that would go on to win the title last season in their last win of the season. But from the end of the 9 weeks of the season, they went winless. So I think they've gone in and they brought in some new players. Declan Waters, Owen Green, Jason Smith, and I'm gonna butcher the name, so I'm definitely not going to try. Um, but the attacker, I should look. I should just look it up. That's probably what I should do.
Yeah, we were largely radio silent on a lot of stuff that was coming out of Chattanooga during the
Mm-hmm.
off season.
Yeah, and I'm not sure why. They didn't make a whole lot of noise with it really. And I'm not exactly sure why they didn't make more noise because their signings were great signings. I think they kind of figured out that they needed some attacking power. They went out and got it. Um, but I mean, Chattanooga is one of those ones that we talked about last season. If they could string a group of play together for the entire length of the season, they would be able to. They would be able to be a lot better than they were, but they never could just put an entire match together. And I know we said that about so many teams last season, but man, it's really tough.
I will say I've been jealous of Naples having their training sessions on the beach and having the beautiful weather and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Seeing those posts on social media, man, makes me super jealous.
Uh,
I will also give a shout out to the front office, specifically whoever's involved with corporate sponsorships over at FC Naples, absolutely killing it, signing companies left and right for random sponsorships for different assets, whether it be
mm-hmm.
like social media blasts or match day blasts or whatever it is. Like, man, whoever's doing corporate sponsorships at FC Naples,
Yeah.
give them a huge raise because they're killing it.
And yeah, so it did take me this long to find out how to pronounce his name because the league website for some reason didn't have the pronunciation like I have seen in the past, but Oalefe is how you pronounce it. So midfielder for Chattanooga Red Wolves, big signing this season. My apologies for not knowing it how to say his name until now, but um, yeah, I mean, Chattanooga really kind of went in and got the signings they needed to bolster their squad a little bit. I don't necessarily think that they're going to be world beaters this season, but I do expect them to be better than 11th place this season. I don't think they're I think they have enough talent to be able to get over that hump. Whether or not they make it to the playoffs, that remains to be seen. But as far as this match, this one for me is kind of a toss up. Um, Top to bottom, looking at both of their rosters side by side, I think they're pretty even. I think um, FC Naples probably has some of the bigger names out of these ones. Um, but I'm excited. I'm excited to see this matchup, to see how both of these teams are going to play this season. But that being said, I like Chattanooga in this one. I'm going to take the side that's already been in the league for a little bit and give me Chattanooga. Give me Chattanooga 2-0.
Oh my
They're good.
gosh. Okay.
I think they're gonna bolster it, and they're gonna come out swinging.
All right. I have Naples winning this one, and I'm gonna say 1-0 for Naples. I think Chattanooga's still trying to find their way. I think Naples is still trying to establish their chemistry, but I think there's more talent and more to work with Naples. So that's why I'm saying 1-0.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's hard to argue. I think this is the toughest one out of this weekend to pick. Um, just especially because obviously you don't know what you're going to get out of FC Naples, but the same can be said about Chattanooga because we said it all year last year. So
Yeah.
kind of the same thing there.
Chattanooga is another situation where they've been turning heads in the offseason with their preseason play. I mean, they've been having some quality results coming out of their preseason matches.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting to watch this one. Okay, so we have now done the 3 matches in week 1 of the 25 USL League 1 season. There's one thing left to do. And I think it's do we have enough time to do 12th to 1st, or should we save that for next season or for
Oh,
next episode?
I think we got to save that for next show.
Yeah, let's save that for next show. We got Enrique in the live chat. Enrique, how you doing, man?
It's good to see you.
Yeah,
It's another season here.
there we go. All right, so our rankings, our 12th to 1st will come next week.
Yeah.
But check our socials because we'll be having some stuff in there as far as our predictions and the fan scoreboard and all that kind of stuff. It's going to be a fun thing that we're going to be tracking all season.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And do we have any questions on social media?
Um. Yeah, we do. Um. There's one. I will take this one. Um. But Connor, longtime listener, and
Ooh.
talks in quite a bit in chat as well. Um. Connor, Connor wants to know: is Union Omaha playing shirts and skin this season, or will we actually have kits? Um. Union Omaha, I'm sure will have kits. We have yet to see them, so I don't know anything about them. Um, but we kind of saw this last season. I think Tormenta went through this last season. Um, they had to play their first game or two in their warm up kits, which ended up really not being that big of an issue. I know it's frustrating as fans to see all these other teams announcing their kits and stuff like that. Um, I don't like it. I think it's kind of an air of professionalism, I guess, to make sure that would get done before the season started. But I'm willing to cut Union Omaha a little bit of slack because it is literally the first time they've had any issue. If there's even an issue, we don't know because they could just be playing their cards really close to their vest. I mean, we're still a week out from Union Omaha playing their first match anyway. Um, and we know Union Omaha loves their Tuesday announcement drops. I mean, there's still time for something like that. But playing away at Greenville for the first one, I think you could really have an issue if the first home match comes and goes and the Union Omaha doesn't have their kits by then I think you have more than enough ammunition to be upset to the point of questioning, front office decisions and stuff like that, in my opinion. So, um, they're going to play in something. That's really it. They're just going to have numbers on the back at the very least. I think they have to have numbers on the back at the very least. So
That's a very reasonable take and a very level-headed response, and I appreciate that. I'm going to go the other way. Union Omaha is going to come out in the Borat bikini with the painted on numbers on their back.
sweet.
Yeah, you heard it here first.
I mean, as long as you get a win, right? Like,
as long as you get a win.
Yeah, if you're a Union Omaha fan and you get a win and they came out there in the Borat bikinis, like, sure, you won. And then that just gives me a reason to be able to do it myself at the matches because that's the kit.
Show me in the league handbook where you can't have the Borat bikini.
I don't think there's Borat or bikini. I guarantee there's neither of those words are in the handbook.
There you go.
let
It's
alone
happening.
together. It's got to be, dude. Just crack the code.
Yep. No, the kits are on the way. They're on their way. I can guarantee that. Um, yeah.
Well, other than that, we don't have any other questions, at least from the pod account. I don't think I have any on my personal account either, but
I didn't see anything on Twitter or Blue Sky outside of the one from Zach. So I think we are good to go.
right. Well, I mean, since we're at the end of the show, then I'm just super excited that the season's starting and getting back into it. The first pod of this very 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 young season, and it hasn't even begun yet. I'm just excited to be back and talking with everybody. It's good to see everybody in chat as well. It's good to be talking to you again, Rich. And it's been fun. I'm looking forward to the next one already.
It really has, man. I can't wait for the next 30 some odd weeks either, man. It's gonna be so much fun. And hopefully I win the prediction thread. I'll throw that out there too.
Oh yeah, I hope you get one too.
I don't know if we can establish any bets or any wagers or anything like that, but I just hope like hell
Oh
I win.
yeah,
So as long as I don't get last, I'll
yeah.
say that.
Hit us up on Blue Sky or Twitter, and
Yeah.
let us know what you guys think should be the bet. What is the bet for the end of season prediction contest between Rich and I?
Yeah. I don't know that I want to leave that up to the creativity of the mind of Ranting Blue Penguin, but
It's got to be within reason. I mean, I think we it's our show. We can have a little bit of veto power here, okay? Although Tim has been a host on the show before too, so maybe.
yes.
Ooh, ooh. All right. Well, Tim, be nice. That's all I can say.
All right, everybody. Week 1 in the 2025 USL League One season starts tomorrow night at, let me check that out, 7 o'clock Eastern time on ESPN Plus. Make sure you tune in. And then the 2 matches on Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern time and 7 p.m. Eastern time. Check those out on ESPN Plus as well. Until then, we'll be back next week for another episode and more analysis and all that kind of stuff. Check our socials, and we got more coming.